Welcome to Empower Hour. Let's get growing. Good morning. How do I get this on full screen? There we go. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, Memorial Day weekend. I had no idea until I think yesterday. So I don't have any Memorial Day weekend plans when I made plans for Tuesday. Anyway, I'm super excited about today's conversation. I'm going to bring my guest up right now while I do my little opening. I have here with me today my brother, Mike D'Ambrosio. We have known each other probably close to 10 years.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. And then we got into business together. We've done some projects together. We've done some things together. But most of all, we've become friends and collaborators on whatever we can. And so, but Mike and I really bonded because of our spiritual connection, right? And that's that he was one of the people that really helped me to integrate my personal life, my spiritual life. That's how much of a social life I have, you guys. I call my personal life is my spiritual life with my business. And I now feel that they like the spiritual life comes first. I mean, the whole crust of my business is Soulful Prosperity. And if you've heard me talk, by the way, I'm Jen Marr, Soulful Prosperity Coach, and I'm very excited to be here. Mike D'Ambrosio, he is a real estate investor. He is a realtor. He is commercial, residential. He owns his own portfolio and does a lot of really great things. So we're going to hear more from Mike. But so the reason why I wanted to have this conversation about visualization is because to build something sustainable, to build something that nourishes your soul, I truly feel visualization is a huge part of that process. And it is something that I left out. I did not actually start visualizing on a regular basis. So if you guys have heard me talk about my 7-year plan, that pretty much everything on that plan I checked off. But when you're missing the visualization part, to me, what visualization does is help you to visualize that version of yourself, the other side of your goals. And when you envision this version of yourself, it comes along with what are the decisions that version of myself makes? What do they eat? How do they move? What are they driving? What are they doing? Who are they spending their time with? How do they speak? What kind of language do they use? It really helps you to develop this version of yourself that you will be on the other side of this. And so when I hit my 7-year plan, a lot of that ended up blowing up on me because I wasn't aligning myself fully with who I needed to be in order to have this beautiful life that I envisioned. And so in the last few years, I've been visualizing heavily because when I had to make this transition from, real estate leader to coach, business coach, right? Not even necessarily real estate coach. I struggled with it a little bit myself. Now I have to go out and tell the world, right? Oh no, so after 28 years, I'm doing this. I really needed to be able to embody and walk the talk of who I wanted to be. And so visualization was a huge part of that process for me. I don't think I would have the confidence to do what I'm doing without doing that on a daily basis. And so, of course, I brought Mike here. And you know what's funny, Mike? That 7-year plan came out of a Joe Dispenza meditation. The one where, ooh, what is that? It's a really loud noise. I'm going to mute you for a second. So the Joe Dispenza visualization, where you visualize, your greatest desires, and then you boil it down to one letter, and then you hang that letter in front of you. So in a sense, I did, but I did that visualization once and then had the letter, and then soon I forgot all about that letter and was just like trying to just get these goals done. So that's what it means to me. So obviously, I want to hear what it means to you, and hopefully that horrible sound is gone.
Sorry, they're like vacuuming in the background. But
There we go.
anyways, thank you so much for having me. And it's been a pleasure just being a witness and being a friend over the years. But I love this topic because, and I think about it often, a lot of people are like, well, when did this start for you? And what is, right, visualization and meditation and prayer and all these things, right? And so I think it shows up everywhere. It shows up, in the religious texts, in the religious culture. For me, when I think back of the first time, like when I think back, okay, when was the first time I actually, like, this actually went into play? And I remember, I was like 10 years old, and my brother-in-law put me on the back of a motorcycle, and I just remember being obsessed. And I was just like, a couple of years later, the computer with the dial-up internet and AOL came out, and as soon as I could, I remember, and this is way before I knew, I was an amateur with growing up in the Roman Catholic Church. Didn't know anything about visualization. There was no personal development or anything in my ear at that time. My world was very small, and this is before cell phones, right? So I'm printing out pictures of motorcycles and I'm pinning them on the wall, and they're in my environment. And yeah, before I even knew what, right, I feel like it's just so innate, especially if you watch children, right? Yellow truck, yellow truck, yellow truck. You just like obsess over something. And children don't understand the difference between, right, the waking reality, the dream reality. They're just feeling, right? And so that brings up like my first experience, and then later in life, and then years later, I ended up having like every motorcycle I put on the board I had years later, unknowingly, didn't put it down on a piece of paper to have the intention, didn't have a plan. But it was so deep in my subconscious, and I had already, right, imagined and felt, right. So I was doing so many things that we learn to do now as a kid, and then as I got older, the next time in my life it would come up. I remember picking up my first like Olympic wrestling book. I was wrestling in high school, and I was, inspired by these like Olympic athletes who would like, pop their shoulders back in after a rough match or something. I don't know, these crazy stories, right? And I just remember reading about this Olympic athlete and how he would visualize in the match, like over and over and over again, how the match would go, what moves he would make, how it would end, how it would feel with his hand to be raised at the end of it.
Yeah.
And then later in life. And so this was my early understanding of visualization and prayer, right? And then, I'm hearing it in the church, call it as if it's not here, and right. So many of these little lines and in the Bible and so forth. And so I think it's a really important thing to pay attention to. I think it's something that we naturally do, without any kind of context. And, that's how it started for me. And then once I started getting involved in personal development and wanting to change the reflection of life and my experience, I got deeper and deeper into some of the details, into the Joe Dispenza, into the quantum science, which really helped to kind of, explain it in my kind of way of understanding.
Okay, anybody who uses Joe Dispenza to easily understand something, I've been in this realm a long time. I'm still like, I swear to God, he sounds like Dr. Seuss to me.
I mean, he sounds simple. It's easy and digestible to me. I'm not a big science guy as much as you may think I am. I'm actually like very simple-minded, but now I use visualization for everything. I want to draw in, right? In this, we're here to create, and I want to draw in and feel everything. I mean, it just feels good, to bring in. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a partner. It could be an achievement that you want in business. I remember when I first got my real estate license. I remember, just visualizing being on stage and, what I would say and, the accolades and everything like that. And this was when I just hadn't done anything really with
Yeah.
with the sales license. So I use it every single day, like every day, meditation, visualization, prayer is part of my routine. I keep a journal. I want to be intentional about how I'm feeling, how my day's going.
Right.
And I want to live a conscious life. And I understand that living a conscious life means being aware of what you're feeling on a day-to-day basis, and ultimately being mindful of, right? Because those feelings and those emotions are what's drawing in our reality.
Yeah.
So I want to be mindful. I want to be intentional about what I feel, what I'm thinking, and like you said, when you have a goal and you have a plan, and I think you have these reminders, right? And you have these reminders of, when you're in the gym and you have a right. I feel like our body almost needs instruction for how you want it to look, right? If you're in the gym, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger always talks about having a picture of his favorite bodybuilder like on the wall. And so anyway, it's been a big part of my life. It's been fun to visualize and to meditate and pray on something and watch it unfold in my life.
So I know that you started investing in real estate when you were pretty young, and you were and still do probably often, that's an assumption, but you will step into properties, in the millions, um when you do not have those millions liquid, and you may not even have the full deposit liquid. And I
Mhm.
know for a fact that you have basically visualized and manifested yourself into these situations so much to a point
Yeah.
where you have almost no fear. You have a good sense of um, discernment. There's a huge difference which people need to understand between discernment and fear, right? So a little healthy sense of fear where you're gonna do your due diligence, right? That's not
Mhm.
what I'm talking about. Mike just doesn't go in blind and start buying buildings. He goes by, I know this because I've been a part of the process with him. He goes by a feeling,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter if he has the money or doesn't have the money. And then he goes about attracting that money to him to purchase the building. I mean, am I wrong on that process?
Oh no, nope, nope. It's I totally agree. You're 100% right. I don't always know, and it came from before I was in real estate. I just remember I got really good at finding money, juggling money, creating money. So I really got to test my ability to have faith and believe in something that's not here yet. And a lot of times, so yeah, you have been a witness to
Mhm.
some things, and I try to explain this to other people, but a lot of the times I'm the one breathing life into these projects, right? I'm the one pushing because I've done so many times where I've handed and I've structured something where I see value and I see potential, and I've handed it off very easy deals, and but I've watched people with different mindset than me have fear and have doubts about that investment, that project, and just totally have a deal go sideways. And to the
Yeah.
fact where like a year later, I'm like, hey, how's it going with that project? I'm like, and so yeah, I definitely, I had a ton of experiences. And it wasn't always that way. There was times, when I first got into real estate, even before I got, when I was still in the auto business, and I remember just speculating and being afraid and being frustrated and watching all the good deals go by. So there was a layer of that, and there was a layer of like just in my 20s. I think I just feel like I was very in my head and not in my body, and not trusting my intuition. It just wasn't even there. I had my head in all these books and personal development, and it wasn't until like later in my 20s that I even got to like the Joe Dispenza content and like the actual creation and the user manual for this thing. But yeah, I I've been in many situations, and I think those situations early on, right, where I had my first house and I didn't have, and I thought I was upside down, and I was really like didn't know where I was going to get the next dollar from. Like those situations really helped prepare me for down the line when, okay, now I have this deal and it's right, it's profitable, it's this, it's that, and I don't know I don't have the money, don't know where the money's coming from, don't know who the people are. I just know it's good, and I'm gonna go forward, and with the intention that it's all gonna come together, and it does.
So, with somebody who runs their life and their business with mindfulness and visualization, how do you handle failure?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it'll probably be a different answer 5 years ago than now. But I grew up the thoughts that I grew up with, like my dad was like always beating himself up for mistakes, and I like grew up doing that too. So I was very hard on myself, probably 10 years ago. But now, failure, it's a good question, because anytime something doesn't work out the way I think it's supposed to work out, I just say like, hey, I went to the listing appointment, didn't make it, they canceled on me, hired another agent, you name it, or the deal came, it got taken, it went somewhere else, whatever the situation is. I just say to myself now, okay, this wasn't meant for me. I just feel like I'm protected. Um, so it's more like that's how I don't see it as failure. I just see it as this is the universe, God, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, protecting me and putting me on the right path that I ultimately want. It's just not coming in a way that I anticipate. And I think that comes with trust, and it comes with faith, in this life.
Everything is always working out for me. It's not happening to me,
Exactly.
working out for me.
Exactly. So
One
I
of
feel
the
like we get caught up so much in how it's supposed to happen.
yes.
And it's really not that. I don't feel like that's our job. Our job is just to focus on what we want and be,
Mhm.
in awe, surprised
I
by the
agree. And
unknown or how it comes together.
I think this is in where you a perceived failure or where something didn't work out or your challenges and your struggle. I think it's really an important place to insert visualization. And so what you just said before about the beating yourself up. So what you're doing is ruminating on that failure or on that mistake or on that challenge, and you're ruminating it over, and now you're embodying those emotions of failure, of shame, of frustration, right? So I think it's really important to acknowledge, right, where you went wrong, but then to begin to visualize, ruminate over and over on how it would have been had it gone perfectly, right? And keep that in your head and ruminate on that and really tap into that. So when you're in that situation again, you've already improved. And nothing is a failure if you've learned from it and you've learned a lesson. It's only a failure when you quit, right? So I think that's something super important that people don't do, and it's counter intuitive in some ways. And then also regret, right? A lot of people don't want to have regrets, and they get like regret can be such a powerful motivator. And not only that, regret can give you so much clarity because you know exactly now what you don't want and what not to do, and so on and so forth. So as long as you're not using it in the sense like you said where you're beating yourself up and you're picturing yourself doing that. I mean, look, have you ever done that where you literally are over and over playing in your head what you said, and why did I say that, and why did I do that, right? It's definitely not helpful.
Yeah, and then you're just ruminating and vibrating, whatever that is, right? If you're
Mhm.
beating yourself up, it's right. It's usually the one of like not some feelings of not enough, shame, guilt, resentment, anger, fear, whatever low level vibration you can name. It's really not. All it's doing is bringing in more of that. The more we focus on it, the more we beat ourselves up. So I think it's subconsciously an addiction just to a thought or a set of feelings that's familiar. and that, you know, it's probably something that you've been taught or you picked up somewhere. Um,
Absolutely. I'm going to allow some questions now because while we continue our conversation, because I think this is really something that needs to be questioned, right? I don't think people fully understand.
mhm.
I go live every Monday and do visualization, you guys. So if anybody wants to join at the end, I'm going to have that link because it is something that takes a little getting used to. And it is something also that I suggest starting with guided, where you're listening. It's hard to start just visualizing on your own, especially if you're not an accomplished meditator. And I don't mean accomplished, I mean, someone who's used to sitting down and doing that. So Nancy asks, good morning, Nancy. We love you. Is there a specific book for Joe Dispenza, or was it a training? Oh, how many trainings, Mike?
Yeah. For me, I would he's got 3 books. I read 2 of them. One is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and then the next one is Becoming Supernatural. He's got a lot of online courses for his early, 1 or 2 or 3 day workshops. A lot of it's online now. It's like $200. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's been a long journey of personal development. Louise Hay was like one of the first books. Like Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. Probably one of the first books I ever read. It's super simple, and I still read it to this day. It's like probably the 7th or 8th time I use it as a reference. But yeah, Joe Dispenza, check out his books, check out his events. I couldn't honestly I didn't. There was an hour meditation in that book, and I remember sitting in my car after 10 minutes, like I don't know if I can do this, like dying. So it didn't, I read his books and watched his tapes for 2 years before I ever went to an event and actually really learned to enjoy meditating. So, be patient with yourself, digest the information. His books are like Bibles. So
Yes, and you don't need to read it cover to cover. Sometimes you can bounce around a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
and
I,
I just would read a few pages and it's very deep and it'll definitely challenge the way you think. So
yeah,
read a few pages, marinate on it, and
yes.
give yourself time to absorb it and change and let it sit with you, and start with the short meditations. And again, like no one trained us to focus. No one trained us to sit still or close our eyes and disconnect from our senses. So I just recommend being patient with yourself. And if you feel that you're becoming angry or you're antsy or you can't sit still, just understand like that's totally normal and you're doing it right.
You know what, Mike? Every
Yeah.
philosophy and every philosophy and every religion basically boils down to creating stillness, right? And
Mm.
um, and and having that element in your life, whether and we think, and like, for me, I got my first exposure to this because I was just lost and looking for something, and that Buddhist monastery in Kent was calling my name. I stumbled upon it.
Mm.
I ended up going through a 7-year program there, and had I been exposed to the religious part of Buddhism, I never would have started meditation. And so but I was in this like classroom with people and discussing the philosophies and all of that. So I think religion gets a bad name when it comes to this kind of stuff, but really pretty every religion has an aspect of it, whether it's prayers and rosary, or it's doing chanting. There's every single one, and it all boils down to finding your seat of consciousness, right? That's where your intuition lives, and understanding and knowing the difference between that voice, right? One of my friends, called Craig Siegel, calls it your opponent, right? The voice that is
Right.
talking you out of everything that you want to do and giving you limiting beliefs and self-doubts and telling you you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you don't have enough money, they'll never listen to you. So you can really hear that voice, and then the visualization really gives you that clarity. But I also think the visualization gives you the action steps, which I think a lot of people miss. We were talking about that earlier. So it's like manifestation is this huge buzzword, and I think people think you're going to just sit down, visualize, and then it's going to manifest in your life. But
Mm.
really, part of that visualization And after you do, I think it's super important. Now you have these goals. See, now you don't do this structured, but I know that you do this naturally. So now you have these goals or these dreams or these desires. How do I align my actions, my choices, my life, my everything to that outcome? You're somebody who that just happens naturally. I mean, how old were you when you bought your mechanic shop?
22.
And how old were you when you sold it for a profit?
26. 4 years
Yeah.
later.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's just rare. You have some of this innately. But man, someday you should write a book and break and figure out your process, because you
No,
have a
my friends are like, oh, you should do a documentary. This is crazy.
yeah, but you can, because you have a process, but it's a lot of it, so
Right.
who knows where you were in a former life and how much you brought
Yeah.
with you. But documenting it would be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all bring something with us, right? Alicia Keys brought the piano lessons with her at 9 years old. I mean, how do you explain some of this, right? I think we all come with,
Exactly.
like I always had a connection with machines and cars and anything with moving parts. Like I've always had a very intuitive connection before I knew what the word intuition meant. So I mean, that's going down another rabbit hole, but
It is, but it's an
uh,
important part of all, because you just said something so important. Everybody brought something with them. And I think we kind of focus on the negative traits that we've inherited from our parents and our grandparents and our this and our that. But I bet you somewhere in your family line was somebody, maybe part of the industrial era in New York, somebody really big thinking and, just making stuff happen. I guarantee that. And that would be a good exercise for somebody who feels like, you know what, I was born into like not the best of circumstances, my family line, and that can like really weigh heavily on you. And if you can take the time to do a little research into your family tree, you'll probably find some amazing ancestors. And do you know that our parents have our DNA before we're born?
100%. I mean, it's all energy and information, right? You are, right? You're one sex cell from your mom and one sex cell from your dad, and that's energy and information, right? That's communicating to be, to become this perfect form somehow.
But I think
Yeah, just
visualization can help you tap into that, right? Because now
sure.
you're because we have it. We are capable of every single thought, every single emotion, every single action on the most beautiful and grandiose level you can imagine, and ones that have never happened yet. We're capable of all of that. So if it helps you, go look through your family tree and find some fantastic ancestors and tap into them. If that helps, or just have the faith and trust and know that, okay, so I have some of these traits that feel like they slow me down or feel like they give me a ceiling. So learning to tap into, and I feel like visualization is the key to that.
Yeah, for sure. And we're all doing it, whether you think about it, whether you think you're doing it or not. We're all visualizing something. You're worried about the outcome. You're worried about the decision that's going to be made at your next meeting. You're worried about whether your client's going to say yes or no. I mean, we're always visualizing. We're always anticipating the outcome. It's just
So
right.
visualize by design instead
Visualize
of
by
by
design. We're
default.
here to create. I think we just going back, like when you were saying, learning how to quiet the mind and be still and disconnect from the senses. We're seeing I think we see 0.5% of the spectrum with our eyes. So we're cosmically blind, right? And so there's someone that was listening to a poem the other day, and it was like, I see the mountains. Like the eyes said, I see the mountains, but the ears say, I don't hear the mountains, and the mouth says, I don't taste the mountains. And the touch says, well, I don't feel the mountains. So it's like, is it there? Sure, it's there, but it's just a reminder that we can only see so much with our senses. Like we're fooled by our senses into this vision of or appearance of separation. But at the end of the day, we are all connected. We're all one. We're always accessing. We all have access to this infinite field of information, intelligence, universe, whatever you want to put a label to, God. You know, and that's also playing a part in this visualization, right? So I'm closing my eyes and I'm disconnecting and I'm connecting to an emotion or a time or a place or a feeling, right? And I'm preparing myself for the event when it's coming, right? And then, you know, as you get deeper into this work, you realize that the 3D, where we are in the third dimension, it's extremely, it's the most, the form, right? Physical form is it's the slowest form of frequency,
Yeah.
right? And it takes time to navigate, right? And once you understand time and space, you'll understand why your visualizations don't happen instantly. And I believe the better you get at it, the better you get at, right, becoming the tuning fork and tuning into what you really want. I think the faster your manifestations will appear. I think it's just that we have a layer, whatever it is, of disbelief, misunderstanding, cultural and programmings from our upbringing that are interference, right? That are in the way of what we are naturally designed to do.
Yeah. And you know, and if you because one of my practices with clients is helping them to tap into the highest version of themselves, and is takes some time sometimes, and people struggle with it. So you can also use, like, you know, um archetypes is a big one. A lot of different coaching and philosophies talk about that. um and then, you know, or specific people. You know, one of my coaches, Brian Johnson, his whole wall, he spends a ton of money making these beautiful wallpaper tiles, are filled with his heroes, people he feels. And then he will embody the character traits, the virtues, the values of those people that are his heroes. Although he's gotten a lot of shit lately for not having any women on his wall. I think he just added a few women, but it is what it is, you know. Like, that, you don't let society do that to you either, you know. Like, you gotta go deep within. And but there are, so, and then, like, these people that you consider your heroes, that you idolize or you look up to, the reason why you are attracted to them is because you have those traits within you that just haven't necessarily, or maybe they have and you just want to get them to a higher later level, been activated. And so if you struggle with visualization, with, you know, your highest version of yourself, to visualize these character traits that of people that have already accomplished what you want to accomplish, and just sit with those virtues, those values, those character traits, you know. All right, so there's a question here. Can you share an example of business success achieved through visualization?
Sure. I'll share something that before I read any fancy books or quantum science books, I remember. So let's talk about my first business, right? I'm 20, 21, 22 years old. I got a little bit of money saved, and I was looking at either a business or a house, right, to invest in. And so before I even found the location for this business, right, that I wanted to open and start, I remember thinking about, what would I name it? How would I want to pick up the phone, right? The name of my company was Perfection. So I just remembered, like, hearing a woman pick up the phone, "Good morning, Perfection," you know? So it's like, I think that was some of my earliest, that's probably one of the earlier stories of how I visualized, right? I visualized how I'd pick up the phone, what I wanted to feel, how I would, you know, the feeling of opening the door every morning and turning the lights on, and the feeling of having employees and being able to serve my community. Like, that all came way before the actual store came.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love
And I
that.
don't know if I was in sight, or sometimes it's hard to tell if it's coming in or if I'm putting it out. But I believe, and again, at that point, at that time, I didn't have the information I have now.
Isn't
So
there
it was,
go ahead, sorry. But there's that
yes,
expression, as within, so without. So I think the answer to
exactly.
that is you
Right. So
can't
I
put
hope,
it out. You can't put it out if you don't embody it.
if you're not receiving it, right? So that's what
Yeah.
I was receiving. That's what I was feeling. That's all I could think about was, right. That was my yellow truck, yellow truck, yellow truck. It was repetition. It was in my mind all the time while I was at work doing my work. My head is in this place of, here's my new business. Here's how I'm going to pick up the phone when I get my store. Here's how I'm going to feel with my clients, and it was very similar. Right, I was in a similar business, so I had an idea of what it would feel like. I just didn't know, what it would feel like to have my own. And so I would just, right, like it's just like kids do. You're the kids. You're just playing with it. It started out as I had no attachment either. I had no attachment to this outcome. All I remember is for, I don't know, probably 6 months before it happened, all I remember is ruminating about it every single day, just subconsciously while I'm at work, doing my tasks, doing this, doing that. Back in my mind, I'm just like focused on it over and over and over and over and over again.
You just said something so important about the attachment to the outcome, which is what, where I kind of went wrong with my 7-year plan was I created a persona around these outcomes. And luckily I discovered and did the work before. So when I had this situation just kind of blow up on me, I had already knew the answer to who I was and knew the answer to what am I meant to be doing. Thank God. But so sometimes, those goals and those dreams and those desires, people get so attached to them that if it doesn't work out that way, that specific way or whatever, then they feel ruined, they feel defeated, they feel like life is over, or they feel like it's just no use, right? So not being attached to the outcome. And then not only that, the levels of success, yeah, they were great, but I now know that I know that I cut myself off from the outcomes that the universe had in store for me because I was so energetically connected to a specific, right, the density of what I wanted, instead of like, that's what visualization also helps. It helps you understand who you need to be, and the process is really about becoming that version of yourself. And then when you get there, you're already ready to become an even, more joy, more freedom, more clarity, more prosperity. Like, it's limitless. And so we end up limiting it ourselves. At least I do. I'm the queen of this.
Right.
No more though. That pattern has been broken. That pattern has been broken, and it's beautiful to be able to be aware of it. And it's such a blessing to be able to see somebody who got this at such a young age. I mean, what you were doing in your 20s and what I was doing in my 20s are two very different things.
Yeah, don't. I have my moments. It was no angel,
I
I'm
know
like,
your
listen,
moments.
I'm trying to figure it out, and like,
Your
well, I gotta
moments
be.
are true cocktails, okay? I know your
I'm trying to figure it out with a margarita in my hands, So it's like
okay.
nothing perfect here, but
Can you share? Okay, we did that, and there was another. But before we get to that, I want to just add that the other thing is, the other part of visualization is, so many businesses you're already doing. Once you put goals down, that's a visualization. But you want to go further into it to embody those emotions and thoughts of what it feels like to achieve those thoughts, right? So give me a little explanation on that, because you're going to say it more eloquently than me. Give us the Joe Dispenza explanation of like, why don't just put your, and I did a vision casting workshop, you guys, at the end you can get the registration and watch that replay, because it's really a more powerful way of doing your goals, because goals are just 2D or 1D, right? So getting them and where you're embodying. So can you give a little explanation to that, why you want to go further than just KPIs, sorry.
So your question was why be specific with your goal setting, planning, visualization?
Yeah, like really embodying and being able to visualize. Like, now I can 100% visualize. I know what I smell like. I know what I'm wearing. I know who's around me. I know how I spend my days. Like, it's so clear and it comes right to mind. But it took a long time. So I think some people won't. It's one of those things. It's not difficult. What's that expression? It's not easy, but it's simple. So just give a little process to that, the why we want to go further than just setting goals.
Yeah. So, I mean, two things that you said that stuck out. One was a lot of times people come to me and they're like, how do I do this? Or how are you doing that? And I want this and I want that. And then what they don't understand is like you said, it's a way of being, right? Like abundance, overflow is a way of being. It's not a how. everyone's looking for the how. How do I do this? How do I do this? No, it's not. If you're tuning fork, right? If you're vibrating, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I don't have what it takes, I don't have the money, don't have the resource. It doesn't matter what I tell you. I can tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you won't have the outcome because your vibration is creating your reality, and your vibration is saying, don't give this to me because I want to keep feeling this way.
Yes.
Right. And so the universe is just giving us what we want, but are you aware of what your body and your emotions, right, energy and motion, is saying? So the real question, what I tell these people when they say, when I know what they want, I know they want to make more money, I know they want to feel better, I know they want more love, whatever. I say, what I already know, because like you can tell by language. You can tell by language, you can tell by their wording, you can tell by their expressions, especially with money, right? Our relationship with money. You know right away what that person's way of being is just by spending 5 minutes with them.
Yeah.
And so I think you're the way.
Go ahead.
Was that?
Or
Yeah,
I
so
still
it's
struggle with
important.
that.
Yeah, so it's important to, right? It's important to goal set and be specific. I think being specific and having a clear intention is awesome, because you're really dialing in how you want to feel, right? How you want to be. Who do I have to be to achieve these goals, right? Let's say I'm at 0 and I have this vision of making $1 million a year, right? Okay, well, who do I need to be? What is a person that makes $1 million a year? Like, what are their routines? What do they look like? How do they spend money? Do they leave good tips, right? When they do they leave good tips to the valet guy? How do they eat dinner? How do they, right? You typically, people make a lot of money are generous, right? Are they generous with their time and with their money? Are they regimented with their schedule? Right. And so these are the questions you want to be asking. You have a goal and you want to, right? And you want to go from A to B.
Yeah.
So
and where are you spending your money?
Right. Where am I spending? Right. Exactly. So it's just all these things, but it's not just 1 + 1 = 2, right? Which is your goal setting plan, right? I need 10 appointments. I need 10 contracts. I need this. I need that. It may come in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's having this balance of, here's my plan, here's my intention, but I'm okay if it comes to me in a different way. Like, if my goal is $1 million this year, and if it doesn't come to me in this form of income, it comes to me in that form of income. I know and trust that, this is ultimately from really bringing me what I want.
Absolutely. Well put.
So I don't know if I answered your question, but
you did. So, because it's an embodiment, right? Even gratitude, right? Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. You want to receive more. Get yourself into gratitude as often as you can. Ruminate, but you need to also embody it. You can't just write down on the list what you're grateful for. If there's a person on that list, take that opportunity to call them, thank them, share that memory with them. Get really deep into those emotions of the gratitude, and the same thing with the goals. Get into those deep, like, how is this goal going to impact my family? How is it going to impact my quality of life? How is it, and what does that feel like, right? What does it feel like when all these little micro things that are on this to-do list to make that happen are fully accomplished, right? How does that feel? And embody those emotions and sit with them. And that is going to help those limiting beliefs and those, self-doubts and all those things. It really, really makes you do, and it gives you focus and clarity and motivation. People, I don't know, do people ask you, Mike, like, how do you stay motivated? And, has anybody ever asked you that?
How do I stay? I don't know. I don't really get that question a lot. No.
Yeah, I get that almost every week.
Yeah. It's not I mean, you do have like just tremendous energy and an ability to divert your energy where you need to. And it's a skill, right? It's a skill.
It's a skill. That's exactly it. You
Yeah,
can't
for me,
listen to
it's
Tony Robbins and be like motivated. Nobody can motivate you.
mm.
I'd say,
I don't feel motivated. I feel like motivation is temporary. You know, I
yeah,
go and you go to the meeting with the coach right before the game and you're motivated, right?
right,
But who's going to motivate you to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you went to
right,
sleep at 1 o'clock the night before? Or, you know, who's gonna motivate, you know, especially in real, like any type of real estate sales business, mortgage sales, like it's just you know,
yeah,
there's no one that on your shoulder saying, hey, make those 5 calls on this hour, and hey, follow up with this one. Dude, it's just it's you. And if you feel pulled right to your vision, and you're right, you're writing your goals down every morning and you're excited about it and you're feeling it and embodying it, and you're dedicated and committed to those actions that you need to take, and make those little deposits every day, and have patience, and feel the success now and really enjoy that day to day.
yeah.
I think that's what's pulling me to where I want to go, because my vision, and I'm casting my what's the word, I'm casting my rod so far out, and I'm reeling myself forward every single
Mm,
day with those
yeah.
tasks. And I don't, and if you don't have a big goal, like, I don't know, well, for me, I just feel like my goal's so big, it's just constantly pulling me, it's constantly
I
pulling me
don't.
in that direction.
We didn't really answer this question before we take it away.
Okay.
So, what does the structure of your practice look like?
Me personally,
Yeah, like how long is it? When do you do it? How do you
yeah.
do it?
I
And then
mean,
we'll
again,
get to
like
more
I've been,
questions.
this has been a passion project, and I think everyone should have their own passion project on creating themselves in their own lives. But this has been a passion project for many years, just to create a better reflection in life. And for me personally, I mean, it could be anything. I meditate anywhere from 1 to 2 hours a day. Sometimes I'll do 30 to 40 minute meditation in the morning. I'll do another, 45 to an hour before I go to sleep at night. Sometimes I'll wake up and dedicate 2 hours, and I'll just journal
Mhm.
and meditate for an hour and a half. But look, there's no one size fits all. And if you're not doing any meditation and you want to start with 10 minutes, or even just close your eyes, or journal, and just practice your own form of mental rehearsal. I mean, there's so much power in that. And so that's my practice.
Everything you just described is expansion, right? Every single
Right.
thing there. So it's like as long as you are taking that time, and in stillness creates the space for
Yeah, I
expansion.
think stillness helps to hold the space to reprogram, right? So if you think about training a dog, a lot of people have dogs, right? If you think about training a dog, and right, you would never, and the dog has an outcome, right? The dog has an outcome to go to the bathroom outside, right? So what happens when, like, what's your expectation, right? The same thing with like me wanting to make X amount of money, right? It starts with, okay, day one, we're gonna go outside, we're gonna check out the land. Day two, we're gonna come back out, we're gonna be patient, we're gonna reward when there's good behavior. It's the
Mhm.
same thing with us. Like, it's the same thing with us and our bodies, and we have to be patient with ourselves and understand that most of the programming that was done, not to you but for you when you're a kid or in your environment, was is hardwired, and it doesn't mean it's permanent, but it didn't get there overnight. And in order to form a new synaptic connection in your brain, new highway in your brain for a new way of feeling, it's going to be uncomfortable in the first, right? Because if you're going from having feelings of being unworthy, and you want to step into feelings of abundance, feelings of overflow, feelings of joy, right? Feelings of generosity and worthiness. The first time you try, it's going to be uncomfortable, and your body's going to say, no, no, we like that. We like what's familiar, and this is familiar, and we need to go back. And the body doesn't like the unknown, and so that's where the books and the resources and whatever you feel inspired to read, or if you want to start with Joe Dispenza or anybody in that world, that's where the knowledge and information kind of gives you a guide to, hey, I'm sitting down and meditating, but nothing's happening. Well, it's not happening because it's your first day. and this is a commitment, and this is a training, and this is a rewiring, and this is a process, and this is the joy, right? How often do we get to a place, right? You get to a goal, and you get there, and you're like, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, like how we feel now, the anticipation of, oh my God, what would it be to have like my own business? Oh my God, how naive, right? And like you're just like, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, and it's like almost like the thought and the vision is better than the actual event. And then when you get to the milestone, you're like, how short-lived is that success, right? So what you're really left with is the now of, hey, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna work towards something that doesn't exist today, and I'm gonna enjoy myself, and I'm gonna have all these good feelings, and embrace life anyways, whether it's here or not. And that's the way of being, and that's the state of where the magic happens.
I love that. And I'll just add my favorite expression: 99% is a bitch, 100% is a breeze. Means make it a daily habit, people. If you try to do things like even go to the gym, whatever, 2 to 3 times a week, the next thing this day doesn't work. Now you're down to 2. That doesn't happen. Now you're down to 1. And the next thing you know, you're down to none. But the point is, the reason why you end up going down to none is because you're not doing it daily. It's freaking hard. Every time you try to go to do it, right? You get on that treadmill only once a week, you feel like you're going to die, right? And then if you're doing it daily, it becomes so simple. It's like brushing your teeth. Non-negotiables. Make it part of your non-negotiables. I always say this, for coffee drinkers, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I know what you coffee drinkers are like if you don't have your coffee. Well, how about all of us? Have you ever left your house without brushing your teeth? Like, it's almost never. And if you do, you're literally like, I can't believe I just left my house without brushing my teeth, or deodorant, whatever. So it's really important. All right, Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth. Says, how do you feel about giving yourself deadlines? Is that good or bad? I think that's our last question.
I think we all have deadlines. I think deadlines are important, but I think they should be healthy deadlines that you can commit to. And I think that's, it's definitely a personal preference. Do I, and again, it goes with, having no attachment. I don't know. That's a really broad one, but I feel like, hey, if I have an intention, I can see how deadlines can be a bad thing. If you're like, I need to be a millionaire in 6 months, and I can see how they can create pressure. But I also feel like, there's some portion of not having an attachment to the outcome, but there's also, there's the controllables and the non-controllables. And I'm going to do my part. I'm going to meditate, visualize, pray. I'm going to go and do my part. And know at the end of the day, like, hey, I know I dedicated the time. I did my 5 phone calls. I meditated, visualized. I got into the state of being that I want to be in. And whether or not, this happens, whether or not I get my appointments today or tomorrow, I'm gonna show up tomorrow and do it anyways.
All right. So deadlines with that are realistic, but also look, the natural order of creation. Right. And what we're doing, we're setting goals is creation, is it needs tension, stress, and friction. Think about how we're born into this earth. Think about how flowers.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So I think it is important, but I think, not being too attached or understanding that, you just got to have that balance.
Right. There's got to be some kind of balance. And as long as I think deadlines are healthy, as long as you're not like really as long as the deadlines are not creating bad feelings, I should say. If those deadlines are creating anxiety and stress, and again, like in a bad way, I know stress, we need resistance to grow. We need the wind for the trees to grow strong. We need resistance to make muscle in the gym. But as long as it's done in a healthy way, it's focused on the controllables, right? You're not focused on, the non-controllables that I think they're very healthy. If a painter comes in my house and says, it's gonna take me 2 months to paint the house.
By my intuition.
There's gonna be a problem. But if the painter comes in and says, yeah, I'll be done in 4 days, right?
Right.
I expect it to be done in 4 days. So
yeah. And that's also a vision to have in front of you is a date, right?
Right.
So you have it on your calendar, you have it here, so you have a reminder. And then you also can figure out what that integrity gap is. If I want to have this done by this day, where am I at? Where do I need to go? And then what's all the stuff that needs to happen to make it happen, which goes along with aligning yourself with these visions and these outcomes, because that's a big part of it. Well, this was awesome. I knew it would be. I really respect you. Helped me, like what I went through with my business in the past few years. I know you were put in my life as divine intervention, because having someone around me who all was embodying everything that I believed in, which can be a struggle. That's another thing. If you don't have people that are practicing these type of things, get yourself a community that does, because you can so easily just forget it, because if everybody in your life is not doing it, and you can't have, like, Mike and I can have some really weird conversations, and they're important. Like, we enjoy it and it's important, but that's us supporting each other's practice. And so Mike came into my life at a perfect time for me to know what, to bolster what I already knew. So I'm very grateful to you and always will be. So if somebody wants to buy a house in New York or Florida, Mike is licensed in both, in Connecticut, I think. Are you licensed in Connecticut?
New York, Connecticut, and Florida. I love working with investors or first-time home buyers, all the things in between. But yeah, Instagram is a good place at Mike D'Ambrosio, or you can just Google my name and get my contact information. It's out there.
I
There
love
we
it.
go.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Awesome. And if anything resonated with you today, you're looking to grow your business, take on a project, expand, do anything, I have this amazing program called Beyond Limits that is pretty much all inclusive and everything you need to help you get shit done, right? My goal is to help business owners, entrepreneurs to grow more joy, more freedom, and of course, more profits. And if you are just here today by default and you just landed, this top one, if you go ahead and register, you're going to get access to all the replays for this. Plus, you're going to get access to a shit ton of visualizations that I have in this library, you guys, because it's not always easy. And you become part of this community, and you're going to have access to my Soulful Prosperity Toolkit, which includes visualizations, meditations, and all those important things to, help you in this journey, because it's not always easy. It's not. So, but if you can tap into the power of visualization, I can tell you that you are also tapping into it. Mike said it earlier, and he didn't say it in some woo-woo way, but Mike knows he is supported. He is loved no matter what, because he has that connection with the universe or God or whatever you want to call it. And so you want to think huge and dream big. It's really nice to feel supported and loved and all of those things all the time. And so it's like having, a personal cheerleader behind you, which we all need. We all need. And it builds that trust and faith. And we all know now, trust and faith comes from knowing that no matter what, I will be okay and I will show up as the best version of myself. So, really good stuff. So grateful for you. I didn't even get to see you when you were in New York.
I
I'm going to take.
know. I know. I got you. I'm coming back soon for
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That just means lunch or dinner's on you.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
So, anyways, thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome. Have a great day, guys.
Awesome.
Talk to you.